Welcome to Eat Your Backyard, my YouTube channel, where I talk about all kinds of things that interest me in a category called plants and trees. Yeah, so I just had a ladybug land on my glasses, and that's not a joke, that actually just happened. After a giant lizard was flexing its orange throat area, and I took those two things as a trigger to make an Eat Your Backyard video. So what would I make it about? Well, in this one I'm going to tell you about what I started to do immediately after those two things happened, because I noticed that as my grass grows back in, and if you've been watching the channel, you know that I have undergone an effort to revitalize my backyard, and it's working out quite well. Happy with the results. It's been a plan that's happening over the last many months, over years, maybe a year. Really just started in the winter though, because I wanted to, right around December, get my backyard back to what it was, and that was right about when we were at the end of football season, which had completely worn this down to dirt. And on the other side, and this area was in bad shape because of sprinkler, and anyway, got the 20 things that were impacting this yard negatively all managed. Irrigation, fertilizer, organic matter in the soil, shade. I had a huge canopy, not anymore. I brought everything down to a nice manageable level. I made another video about that, about the importance of really considering keeping all your plants and trees at a similar level, or at least at a level that makes sense with the angle of the sun. Maybe like if the sun's coming in this way, you angle kind of the canopy of your yard to go this way. It's almost like a solar receiver, which is what your plants are, what your trees are. I choose, since I'm a location that's close to the ocean, maybe 4 or 5 blocks, this wind all the time, salty wind all the time. If you don't live near the ocean, that may be an unfamiliar concept, but here we see the salty wind, and what you first realize is there's a reason why the Romans would salt the fields of their enemies. That's because it really has a bad effect on anything living, including your vegetables you're growing, and fruit, which they need to live. So anyway, what I do is I have a couple dimensions that I manage in here. One is the height of the canopy, and for a couple of reasons. The sun is one, getting it so that all of your plants and trees can receive sun, because very quickly it becomes this kind of shady deal, which is great and has a place, but you at least have to have enough sunlight that it's possible for what you want to have there to be decent, I would claim. And here it's suffered the effects greatly of a few factors. Not enough irrigation, fix that. Not enough sunlight, fix that. Not enough organic matter, fix that. Too many weeds, fix that. A little granular fertilizer, fix that. Not too much, just a little. And in fact, just a little granular fertilizer, well watered in immediately after application, is the way to go. Just a little, not a lot. The middle way of fertilizer, that's what you want. That's what I found works the best. It's like anything. If you're going to eat a meal, you probably wouldn't want to eat 5,000 calories in one sitting. Well, I would, but you probably wouldn't want to. Better off to have a few 1,000-calorie meals over the course of the day to really have a maximum health impact. Same thing with the grass. But I'm going to focus in, so we talked about a couple of things, the shape and canopy of your yard, and then also in one way, how it impacts the grass, which I claim, and I really do make this claim, that having healthy grass, if you have kids, is really important, and you can do it environmentally, responsibly enough that it's acceptable. And I believe that the amount of oxygen that it will actually generate is probably pretty profound, but I don't know. When I say I believe, I don't really know. I just I believe it, but I have a low certainty level in that statement. So anyway, one of the things that happens is, so when I when I got to the place where it was necessary to put down the organic component here, which is 50% cow manure, 50% compost. They sell it pre-mixed in that quantity for not much per bag, really. I mean, it's pretty cheap. I think I got it at Lowe's, and I got, first we did a set of 25 bags, and then I think we did another 30 or 40, but we did about 70 bags of that 40, you know, the 40-pound kind, the standard large size bags you get at these places. Yeah, spread it out. Just spread it out, raked it in, bought a new rake, got it all raked in. But before we did that, we wanted to get rid of the weeds. So my son did a great job going through and weeding everything. I mean, it was like back-breaking work. And we got it all out, and full well knowing that the weeds are going to come back. So weeding is not just, well, like anything else, it's not a one-time thing. It's a continuous thing. So in this area is particularly bare because it had no water at all. I've done a rigging of that sprinkler system there, which allows it to get water now, but it's not the finish. But anyway, that's a continuous thing too. You never get done with your sprinkler maintenance in Florida. Never. Perpetual sprinkler maintenance. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean, you know, that's the deal. It's not that hard. It just takes a little bit of look at it. Tough part, hopefully you can either handle on your own or pay someone to deal with it. But one thing that's going to happen is after you weed, next step, the continuous part is you're going to have to reweed and reweed. And the thing is, if you're managing it and just, you know, while you're out here, like, it's funny, my son Jack will come out here and see a weed and pick it up. And so we just played around with the concept so much that we can say, that's a carrot. See that thing there? It's a carrot. And it, actually, if you smell some of the roots of these have a very strong smell, believe it or not. That smells almost like a carrot. It's very interesting to me. But as you pick these out, you know, and you get good at knowing how to actually pull the weed out. Like this one, you know, I know this particular type of weed has a very long root. And I also know that if you don't get the entire root out, it'll just grow right back. And then I know that when it does grow right back, it's going to actually, weirdly enough, become somewhat easier to pull out, but it'll just have a much bigger root. And I don't know much past that, but the idea is, yeah, you're going to see that after you've weeded it, new weeds are always popping up, right? That seems obvious, but it's just like, I'm really talking about committing to the process of, we're going to keep this yard maintained. And weeds are part of it. And, you know, what is a weed? It's the next part. You know, some of the things I choose to let grow in the grass, you got to draw the line somewhere, but the middle way, again, where do you draw it? I choose to allow some types of grass that are green and nice and don't cause much of a problem in terms of how things kind of look and feel to grow. So when you look back here, there's 3 types of grass growing in my yard that I like, that I encourage the growth of. One is Bermuda grass, which you can, here's a good, yeah, maybe this will come out real well with the sunlight. Yeah, this Bermuda grass is very fine. You know, typically this is what you'd find on a football field, soccer field, but trimmed real low. They make a special kind of mower, you know, to trim this real low. Well, when you trim it real high, like the kind of mower you're going to want when you have St. Augustine grass that you just trim high, it's a real spongy deal. You know, when you have this, it just ends up getting, I call it fluffy in the middles. But mostly the St. Augustine grass is more powerful, and it'll overgrow it, and then this stuff will just be, you know, interspersed very lightly. But yeah, more or less like that, but even thicker. I mean, this grass is going to get much, much thicker. And the other one is nutsedge. And kind of looking around for nutsedge, it's not finding it quickly, but you know what nutsedge is. It just grows a little taller. That stuff is, there's not a lot of it, so it's not really a big concern, but it's definitely part of the mix. It's just more of a, I don't know, I guess I'd say like it grows like a wheat plant, or just grows from one central point. It just gets kind of taller, but it's green and fills in, mows well. Another thing is, you know, you have things like the showerings, and I talked about this in one of my recent videos, the showerings of a cherry tree. So this is my my Suriname cherry. I had to think about that for a second. I have a Barbados cherry, a Suriname cherry, and that's it. It's a red Suriname cherry. They also have black Suriname cherries, which are super cool. I always wanted one of those. But yeah, so cherry grass happens, as I call it, which is that, you know, you get little cherry trees. Now, each one of these cherry trees, let's take a look at that cherry tree. Each one of those cherry trees is its own viable plant and will actually grow quite well. So, you know, if I wanted to go into the Suriname cherry fruit tree business, I'd have my first 10,000 sprouts ready. But no, I don't want to do that. Another thing is this. Let's see if I just pull this out. Doesn't matter. Yeah, there we go. That is a version of what I call Mexican petunia, what is called Mexican petunia, but I don't think this is exactly that, but it looks just like it. It's like a small version of that, which is the Mexican petunia. You can see it's very, very similar, like the leaves, but this is like a kind that grows low to the ground. It doesn't have those tall stalks. I also have these taller ones run out into the yard, and I have to pull them, but anyway, but I generally let this grow because it's almost indistinguishable from grass, right? So why not? Because, by the way, this already won the war. And that's another component here. Things where you have to just say, this is the way. This is how this stuff works. I can go through and neurotically pick out every cherry tree, or I can just go with the flow of things, which, you know, truth be told, it's not actually that easy to grow a nice healthy green grass in Central Florida near the ocean, because it is something like the environment of a desert here. If you go east or west around the earth on this line of longitude, you will find the Sahara Desert and other things. So that's, you know, would be us too. It's just that how it so happens that Florida is on a peninsula, so we have giant bodies of warm water straddling us, and you know, that produces a daily rain. If we didn't have that, this would be a desert peninsula. But we have it. So it's not that easy, because yeah, this grass is made to have a lot of water, which is the problematic part of having grass in Florida. It's not really something that's compatible with the natural environment, so to speak. It's not intuitive that it could be compatible. But anyway, so yeah, the yard, you got to kind of draw the line on where you want to pull things out, and what you want to let go and what you don't want to let go. Well, you know, standard little weeds and things. It's so easy to just, as you're walking along, see something that's obviously a problem. Like this, just a dandelion, but still, these will produce 1,000 more dandelions. And just spend a few moments just pulling out the little ones. And I do a thing so I don't have to have a weed bucket. Look at that carrot. Look at that carrot. You know, I just lay them out so that they're on the top of the soil, so that they die. Because I also want them to return their nutrients back to the soil. So this thing of putting everything in the yard waste, if you can mow it back in, like we just had our yard mowed, so it's going to be a little while, but you know, you lay these down, they just kind of turn brown. They don't look, it doesn't look bad, but they get mowed right back in, and they become compost for the stuff you do want. Now, if they've got seeds, I don't think you want to, I think that's the time to throw them in the yard waste. Get them out of here, because that's just asking for it. But if they don't, just lay them out. Now, one thing why I'm so kind of careful, look, okay, now see that? That's a good example. This is that Mexican petunia, dwarf style, whatever you call it, that's in here. And it's got some grass around it that I want to have. It's got weeds still. It's got some grass around it that I want, the St. Augustine. And then there's this, and it fills in that gap. So my thing is, why get rid of it? It's green, it looks like grass, and it belongs there. Yeah, so that's the general idea. And the reason I say, you know, put the roots up, just lay it down sideways, is you have to be careful not to also lay it down where it can root again, because sometimes if it's in a place that's well watered, if you even leave the root laying on the ground, it'll re-sprout, you know, regrow roots just into the surface. That happened happens quite a bit. So I just make sure they lay out in the shady areas. It's more difficult because they are able to survive longer. And then you see areas that are like this, where we've got this is a very common type of weed in Florida. It's very delicate weed, breaks apart. These are all these little things you've seen here, like little seed pods, I believe. So, you know, sometimes I'll make a pile, like where I have this, I have some that have seeds. I'll make a pile to kind of capture any that might have seeds on top of each other and then throw it in yard waste later. But here's my final thing I'll say about, oh, look at this one. Wow, that's gratifying. Put it in the pile. I can put it on top of some other weeds that I want to have go away. All right, so anyhow, your yard, your continuous experience with the yard. So my final point is, yeah, let's stay maintaining our yard through picking the little weeds and making it a game and understanding the kind of concepts that govern the framework of your domicile. But know when to say when. All right, that's part of it too. I don't want to be one of these entities which are out on my hands and knees at 12 o'clock in August in Florida. I'll be wearing white tube socks with sandals. Yeah, sweating like a river, just misery. No. So I've done this now for I weeded some of these areas for about 3 minutes before I made this video. Then the ladybug happened, and then I just weeded the duration of this video, and now I am done. So know when to say when. I always think a lot of quickies is better than one longie, as they say. Yeah, there's this guy Suridas that says that quite a bit. But yeah, a lot of quickies. He's talking about meditation, but same idea. Same idea. Don't feel like you have to commit to some long thing. With the weeding, you can get it done over time. Treat yourself like somebody that you like. Because somebody you like, you wouldn't ask them to go out and senselessly, needlessly sweat in their tube socks. Because I've done that. I've done that. I've fallen into that trap many times where I spend a greater half of a day doing that when I could have just broken it up and just made it casual, so to speak, and still accomplished the effect. So anyway, thanks for watching Eat Your Backyard. If you like these kinds of videos, rants about what's happening for me, then go ahead and subscribe, and then your pocket will buzz like the lawnmower you use to maintain your your yard. So go ahead and subscribe right now. No time like now, and then you'll get notified. Subscribe to Eat Your Backyard. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.